Welcome back to a new episode of Breakthrough SaaS Growth with the Jasons. And today we're talking about bold customer success leadership, growth, and real world challenges B2B SaaS companies face. I'm Jason Whitehead coming to you from a rainy, drizzly Washington, D.C. And I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Jason Noble, over in London. Say hello, Jason.
Hello, Jason. Good to be on again.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been a while since we've done one just us. I'm excited about this.
I think this topic's a really key one as well. It's something that we talk about daily, and I think I do with a lot of other people. I know you do as well.
Absolutely. And AI, it can be really exciting, can do a lot of great things, and it can really help streamline operations and processes and change where you spend your time and your effort and how much resource you. It can really help a lot. But we've had a couple of experiences that we've talked about, and one that comes to mind. Recently, we had someone reach out to us at our podcast who used an AI written message and saying they had listened to an episode and loved it, and they wanted to be a guest, and they had a whole bunch of things to say. And many times before we bring guests on, we like to spend some time with them, getting to know them, seeing if they're a good fit and learning about their story to see if it's relevant. And when we got on the phone with this individual, they admitted they hadn't listened to the episodes at all. They really knew nothing about us. They didn't really know anything. So we came in with an expectation of the meeting based on the AI written message they sent. And it turned out to be complete BS. So I think that's sort of one of the challenges that we're seeing right now. So Jason, to start us off, where do you see AI creating false familiarity and false business interactions and setting false expectations?
I think that example you gave is a great one because I had the screening call we did, and maybe that person's listening to the podcast now. But it's what we've not got to do is remove the human part, particularly when
Yeah.
you're talking about starting and building relationships. And that's what we've both seen examples of. It's clearly, well, this actually wasn't an AI. It didn't appear to be an AI generated message. Some do, and some are
Yep.
more obvious, but this one didn't appear to be. And it did. That flattery saying they'd listened to an episode, they pulled out the details of the episode. You think, okay, this could be a great conversation. But for them then to openly admit they didn't do it, that almost is the wrong thing to do. I mean, why? If I'm going to send an AI generated email to someone
Right.
and they then follow up and say, let's have a phone call, I will do some background research. Even if I get Claude to do it or ChatGPT to do it, I'll do some research. So that person hadn't done it, which I think is it's really dumbing down even further what the ability of the humans are. And to that point there is that AI creating that false familiarity. Absolutely. This person had never
Sure.
heard of the podcast, never listened to it, didn't know what we talk about. It's a bit, yeah.
It is.
But more and more people are doing it, and you're seeing now. There's so many newsletters I subscribe to, not a lot non-tech, but there's one today that's a fitness one. Arnold Schwarzenegger's newsletter. It's a phenomenal one to read. But even that newsletter is talking about, is AI making us dumber?
Right.
That's the real risk, because
Yeah.
that example that you gave there, that person doesn't come across as they've not even done their background research. They did other than what we were called, our names. They didn't know anything else.
You know,
That's really, it's setting it up for failure, and I think we've got to
it
be
is.
so prepared for that.
It absolutely is. And I think there's some questions of responsibility in there as well, too. So like in those situations, like I use AI to help draft some outreach messages. And I don't mind people using AI to write to me. It's faster, it's efficient, it shows that they can be good stewards of time and resource. But I don't want it to set a false expectation. And so when I've been reviewing some things before, I put in a review step before things go out, say, you're making stuff up. This is not a situation I've had. I've not had this client experience that you told people I did. I haven't had the results you did. So try it again going from this. So one part of my process flow is to make sure that I'm not setting false expectations out there to begin with. But then I think in this case, there also comes a piece of what does your job become now to maintain credibility? So if they chose to send out that message and said, we talked about this episode, it was great, I would come back prior to this meeting as part of my meeting prep and either listen to an episode or that episode, or like you said, give me a summary so I have some talking points, but at least let me become credible. And I think people need to understand that, you can have your credibility in advance. So make sure you're filtering things out so that you're not setting false expectations. Or if AI has created an expectation, it is now your job to do the extra work to make sure you sound credible.
that's the key thing, because I think, and we've seen it, and it's not just this one example,
Right.
but people are using it to bypass the human part, and
Right.
they're relying on AI completely, which isn't great.
Yeah.
And I think, do
Absolutely.
we is this really an AI problem, or is it a human judgment problem? And that's a really interesting thing, because I think
Yeah.
you still need to bring the human in. AI, as you said, can absolutely help speed things up, make us more efficient still, but who's accountable? The human has to be accountable, and that's us. You've got to accept accountability. And I think
Mhm.
if you start using AI to exaggerate who you are, exaggerate what you do, and AI is just making it faster, it's a real risk. And the
Absolutely.
reason, the danger, and we're seeing it now, is that what AI does is make that bad behavior just
Mhm.
look polished and scales that bad behavior.
Yeah, and I kind of view AI in many ways as a college intern. You know, if you had an intern writing these emails and doing the outreach on your behalf, would they say the same thing, or would they make false? And if they did, you'd have a discussion with them first about boundaries of what they should
Yep.
say and what they shouldn't. But if they said the wrong thing, you'd have a coaching call afterwards to improve future performance. And I think a lot of people don't understand AI is very similar. It doesn't have great judgment on its own, and you need to provide so much context, so much direction and boundaries of where it needs to be. But ultimately, if someone, whether it's a college intern or an AI agent, is representing you, you've got to live with the consequences of where you are, and then use your own judgment and activity to steer where it needs to be.
I think that's what people are missing now. They've also
Yeah.
almost gone full hog in using AI, and eliminating what they can do, which is wrong. That we're not.
Yeah.
Will we ever get there? Maybe not. And this is where AI is an enabler for us, and it's not being used right here. And I think that they're looking at AI to help create more short-term wins, but it can create long-term problems. Your message
Absolutely.
could get a reply, but the follow-up conversations clearly expose that lack of substance. And if you look at, you can get AI to help sales book a meeting, but the
Hmm.
credibility gets weaker afterwards. Marketing can generate engagement, but expectations might be inflated. And then
Yeah.
your customer facing teams, as we've seen with some of our guests we've had on, inherit a trust problem, and it's a real problem. It's getting more and more challenging. It's not going away, and I think it's something that we all need to be very wary of and start planning for. How do we use AI properly,
Right.
use it to help deliver value for us, and how so it doesn't undermine us.
I love what you're saying there because, for years working with support teams or customer success teams, they spend a lot of energy blaming the salesperson who sold the deal and like, oh, the salesperson committed to shit that could never happen or that we don't do or that the system doesn't do. But they set this expectation with the client just to close the sale. Now we're cleaning up the act. So this is not a new problem, but I think AI is making it faster and more ubiquitous, and people
Yeah.
don't understand that the challenges are if you set false expectations, you lose credibility, and there's a lot of damage done and a lot of time and effort wasted trying to right size the relationship and turn that around.
I
So,
think it's great. It is, because it is AI is kind of just scaling this problem. I did a LinkedIn post earlier today. I was literally drafting a LinkedIn post about the challenge that we see with the handoff process from sales to post sales. And I had a phone call
mhm,
from someone in the UK. It's actually from my hosting provider. I won't mention their name on here, but I've mentioned it on LinkedIn. I've been with this company 21 years. I don't use it for business. It's all personal hosting. It's very simple. Had some technical problems recently, and we're stuck on a legacy product. Now, the challenge was this was a human calling me, a real person.
mhm.
And so his first conversation was, do you use any of the emails or the domain names that we host with you, or you host with us? I'm like, really? You really asked me that question? And then I'm like, I've had some technical problems with them. We're on a legacy product, want to move. So they know me, and I've been a customer for 21 years. So I was trying to tell this guy,
Yep.
what you should do is research. Now that, if in his instance, had AI reached out to me, it would have seen the data. But
Right.
these guys have a process that doesn't allow him. He kept saying, I'm just in BD. I'm just in BD. But he should see that information. Now, I think in his case, the AI could have helped.
Right. Yeah. there's definitely those opportunities where the AI can enhance your credibility,
Yep.
make for a better experience, all the other things. If it's focused on the right things and has access to the right data, and that data is reliable. But I think when it goes freestyle and goes rogue, then you're definitely heading for some issues.
Completely.
Jason, I'm curious, when you think about the activities of a customer success team, where do you see some areas where AI could inadvertently make their jobs harder or damage the customer relationship, right? When you're trying to achieve the opposite.
I think the big thing is it's I guess one of the risks is not knowing what AI is doing. And so
Mhm.
there's conversations with customers that you don't know where it happens in the customer journey. You don't know when AI has reached out, what it said, is that information correct? What so you need to be super clear as to what your customer journey is, what parts are technology, digital AI playing, what parts the
Yep.
humans involved. That needs to be super clear to the whole teams. And I think you've got to look at, can I rely on AI to draft my review decks for QBRs, EBRs, whatever you call them? Can I draft product usage data? But still, the human needs to make the judgment. I want the human to be accountable for this. So present the data to me, but I've got to do some sense checks on it before
Right.
I send this to the customer. What I don't want is a lot of this being suddenly automated where there's a risk it's wrong. It's not relevant right now to the customer. So you still need a human to come in and provide that context. And I think if you don't, it might generate additional renewal risk, for example, that's based only on pure
Sure.
data. It might generate recommendations that miss strategic, political, or organizational context. So I think there's key things there that we absolutely still need the human for.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, coming back to the college intern example, I think if you had a junior staff member or team member who's new to your organization, new to customer success, preparing some of that context, they would still be reviewed by a more senior person
Yeah.
and would catch mistakes and catch issues before they happen. But over time, you would come to trust that person. And I think similarly, over time, you can come to trust your AI a little bit more that if they make the occasional mistake, humans make mistakes. If they
Yeah.
does something it shouldn't, but you shouldn't blindly trust it right off until you verify that it can do what it needs to do and it's graduated through, it's been trained up and tuned, excuse me, to the point that it can achieve what you needs to
Oh,
achieve.
I mean, even that point, though. I mean, yeah, the example where we've trained, you've got to train human, you've got to train AI, definitely,
Yep.
but it can still make mistakes, and you're ultimately still accountable for those mistakes. So
Well,
how do you? Does that happen less with humans? I think people right now, people are trusting AI more than they trust a junior member of staff, which is where we've got to
yep.
be wary of that risk.
I agree, and if you have junior members or senior members who are just not doing what you need to do, if they're not performing in their role, you can put them on the PIP, the performance improvement plan. No one ever talks about, should we put our AI agent on a PIP, and it may actually lead.
Maybe we need to though.
Yeah.
And what happens if your AI messes up? What do you do?
Yeah. And I think you have to be careful as well, too, making the distinction between individual AI activity and usage and agents that, like Jason, as an individual, I went into GPT and wrote this email and popped it out versus like someone in sales ops or customer success operations or whatever who may be orchestrating agents for the entire team. So who's going to be accountable and under control for the activity of an agent? Is it the individual who's it's acting on their behalf, or is it the person who organizes it for all the team? And you need to have some checks and balances in there.
I think you do, and particularly as we're hearing people building teams of agents, but there still is human responsibility. At some point in the future, you're going to have businesses where there are very few humans, but the human is still responsible. And I think this is this is a really great conversation. This is a short one we're doing today. We're going to do a series of these around this same issue, AI and trust, a number with myself and just Jason talking. And we've also got some great guests coming up. But we want to leave you guys with a typical breakthrough growth question for you guys. So the one is here: where in your business are you using AI today to create the appearance of preparation, personalization, or expertise? And what human verification step do you need to add before it reaches a customer, prospect, or employee? So have a think like that. We're going to use that same question for the next couple of episodes, but really good conversation this, and I'm really excited about the follow-up ones we do on this.